Good morning. Wasn't a bad night. Lots of animal sounds, nice and peaceful. The bugs, mosquitoes ravaged me the entire night, to the point of ended up having to take my shemagh and cover my head. But other than that, it was a good night. To get some coffee on the go. Firstly, I'd say one of my biggest skills out here in the wilderness is I've got a fairly decent knowledge of plants. Still learning, but I can find plants that I can eat. I can find plants that are medicinal, and I know which poisonous plants to avoid. My biggest weakness says my mind. If I'm out here for a few days, it's fine, but always that first night, because it is so quiet, my brain starts bringing up all these bizarre thoughts, things from the past, things from my present, things from my modern day life. And it takes me quite a long time to quieten that mind and just enjoy being out here in nature. This style of camping always brings up different emotions. When I'm on the way to a camp like this, it's a mixture of excitement, nervousness, a little bit of anxiety. Once I'm at camp and I enjoy the peace and quiet, I have a nice feeling of tranquility over me. I just get to be. Not pleasing anybody else. It's just me and the wilderness. So for my morning coffee, making myself some filter coffee over the fire. And in South Africa we call it moerkoffie. Roughly translated, smack coffee. So it's filtered coffee that we do over the fire. And then for a bit of sweetness, some condensed milk. Let's get that water going. Now that we've got the cap in the right position, we're going to take our coffee grounds, sprinkle a layer over the top. That should about do it. And we're going to bring this up to heat until it does what we call breaking, where it starts boiling. And I'll show you the next step. It's getting close now. There you can see what I mean by the break point. As it comes to the boil, the grounds start going down into the coffee. Let that go for a minute and I'll take it off. Now the secret to moerkoffie, or making filtered coffee out in the bush, is to get those grounds to settle. Just add in a little splash of cold water. It'll normally pull everything down to the bottom. mostly a bit of condensed milk. Maybe a lot of condensed milk. These grounds didn't settle as well as they normally do. I think the coffee might be getting a bit old. Still tastes great though. Morning campfire, morning coffee, sun breaking over the horizon. Life is good. Grounds.
The sun started going down and look how beautiful over the waves and the sound of the sea. Now I will go up there, there's a World War II pillbox to have a look, and then we go and start preparing some food because first of all I'm getting hungry, and secondly today takes about 30 minutes to 1 hour to cook the meal. Let me show you. There is that World War II pillbox. It's a little bit slippery here, but we made it. Let me show you better. This World War II pillbox was up there, which you can see from here. It's one of the biggest forts in Malta, Fort Campbell. But now, let's have a look at this one. This is a World War II pillbox, which was reinforced concrete with shooting windows. Here, hidden from any attack, there are the reinforced doors. Here are more windows, but this one is partially closed. These are some saline here, and if I go from here up there, you can see more. And my tent is up there, so now I go, so I start preparing to start cooking. Now I made it back to camp. Now I have some shade finally. and very sheltered from the wind, which is very good for cooking. So now I will start preparing everything, and so I start cooking soon, because I'm getting hungry, and still enjoying this beautiful view here.
Beach bite. 6 o'clock in the evening. It's getting dark, so I better hurry up and gather some firewood for tonight. Hopefully I make it in time to take a dip in the river. One of my favorite camping locations has got to be the riverside with refreshing crystal clear water. It's hot and humid in this region, and I always sweat buckets after setting up camp. So any chance I get at taking a cold, refreshing dip in a river is just a divine experience. Really cleanses the body, mind, and soul. To me, there are two most important gears to bring on a solo adventure. The first one being a knife or a machete, or basically any tool that is sharp. And secondly, a fire starter, which can be as simple as a lighter or a ferro rod. These two things are what I consider essential for survival if we were to be stuck in the wilderness for a duration of time. Having a good knife or a machete allows you to process wood, to build a shelter, make fire, boil water, and survive. In the Malaysian rainforest, some of the wildlife we may encounter are tigers, elephants, snakes, wild boars. So far, I've only come across things that they have left behind. For example, tiger footprints on a jungle track, or elephant dung when cave camping. But I guess the general rule is to stay calm if and when we meet one, and to never make sudden movements that may trigger them or threaten them. On top of that, making a campfire is always a good precaution, of course. Done processing the wood, and I've still got daylight. So yeah, I'm going into the water.
good spot. One of the most useful knots I know is the Siberian hitch. You wrap around the tree and you have your tail on your right hand side. You wrap it around your hand like so. Probably want a tiny little bit more. Wrap it around your hand like so. Point down, point up. You got that loop. You just pull that through. That can be shimmied up the tree to about there. And on the other side, I do a Siberian or taut line hitch. So now I've got my ridge line all set out. It's got 2 toggles on there. I'm just going to get my tarp strung up now. And like I said, I'm going to have the back of it this way, just to protect me from the wind. Gone for a simple kind of lean-to. I'm just going to put my ground sheet out and I'll probably just peg it out to be a nice A-frame. It's quite windy and I don't want it to lift up or take away. I'm going to get my ground sheet down and then cover it over and peg down. Might not look like much, but it's nice and cosy, it's protected from the wind. And I've got somewhere dry to sleep for the night. If it does rain, I probably will get some water coming through camp, but it's unavoidable here. Everywhere you are is a bit of a slope, so I was going to do a bit of a different tarp configuration, but the weather isn't going to allow for that, so I wanted to get as much cover as I can, and I'm just going to be nice and warm and snug in here. I can already feel how insulated it is from that wind chill. The ground's still a bit damp from this morning, so it's always nice to have a ground sheet up in Scotland. I've learnt the hard way. And I can sleep on this side, nice and dry, out of the weather. Right, I think it's time that I get a little bit of prep done for the fire and then get that going, start making some food for lunch maybe, and yeah, just start relaxing, have a little explore around the area. So as a matter of fact, just as a little snack, I've got a cinnamon bun here, just one of my MRE little bits.
So I thought, have that as a little reward for getting in. See how much that wind's pushing this. But it's going to keep me dry, that's the most important part. And this might not look like too much, but that is going to be so tasty. So cinnamony. Obviously being a cinnamon bun, but that's really good.
So here's my tent all set up for the night. We'll just check it out. So this is the outside here, and this is where I keep my pack. Pull it out of the way. Underneath it, so that's what's left of my food in there, and my boots and my hiking poles. So when everything's shut up, this area remains dry. The mesh of the tent. Come inside. The view this morning out there to the sea, which is pretty special. So what I'm using is I have a silk liner which goes inside my sleeping bag, and it's amazing how much warmth, also how much strength this liner is, but just the added warmth, and it does make it easier because I can just, when I get home, I can just wash this. I don't need to hand wash the entire sleeping bag. And this is a down sleeping bag. I've had it about 30 years and I've talked often about replacing it, but yeah, still haven't got round to doing that. It's still comfy, and upside down I think at the moment, back to front, is my thermal inflated mat. So it's a climate mat, it's insulated, and it doesn't take too many breaths to blow that up. Gives a bit more comfort. Underneath that, yet again, this odd stuff is actually someone else on a walk put me onto this. It's the plastic stuff you buy in hardware stores to put on windows in your home, just to give them some extra insulation, and it just rolls up to nothing, but it just gives another layer on top of the ground sheet, another layer of warmth. Okay, so zip that down, and you have to imagine the other half of the vestibule also shut. So this is the size of my tent. Very, very cozy. So the tent itself entirely is this mesh insect screen, and if you can see yellow through it, that's actually the fly on the outside. So the only solid walls to the tent are right down here low towards the bottom. So it's ideal for summer as it starts to get a little bit cooler, because it's only got this mesh and the fly doesn't touch completely the ground. It can get a little bit breezy. So I've not tested it. I've tested it down to about just over 0 degrees Celsius last year, and that was too cold for me at that stage, and that's why I was talking about also getting another sleeping bag. There's always things on the bucket list. So because I'm camping under trees, one of the important things was just to look around and see if there's any likelihood of branches or dead wood coming down on me. And the trees, the spot I've chosen, there's just a couple of smaller trees there, and I think I'll be fine. It's exposed partially to the sky, so there I will get a bit of moisture on me, but at least I'm not going to have anything drop on me. So this area here, it's pretty much all Bushcraft tree. So these are the boots I use on most of my tramps. We don't call it hiking in New Zealand, we call it tramping, and it really is a tramp because you're going through muddy tracks and swamps, and yeah, it's not, sometimes the trails are a bit rough, but they've got quite an aggressive heel on them, so you don't skid. And the leather comes right up, and here it can't get in here through the tongue. And with this lacing system, which I really do like, the way you can lace it up and use this, whatever it's called here, you can stop your feet squashing down into the toe of the boot. And I've had other boots in the past where my feet, when you're going downhill, have been so squashed up against here, even though the boot's fitted, that I've ended up losing toenails because of it. So obviously not ideal. They're lightweight, yeah, but very comfortable, and with their height they give a lot of ankle support as well. Again, walking on those rougher tracks, maybe on a scree slope or just rocky like where I am here on the beach, it's good to have that extra support going so high up your ankle. Yeah, they're good boots. So it's really important to have good boots. So get the best ones that you can do. Make sure they fit, and probably go up a size bigger than you think you're going to need. But you want to, before you buy them, you want to try them on, and before you go out for a hike, it's really important that you break them in a bit and do some local walks first, just to make sure they're comfortable before you go out any great distance. So you need to break them in. And these socks, purposely, because they come up to that height, these are hiking socks, tramping socks. I did have some shorter ones in the past that I've used, and they ended up slipping down, and I ended up with really bad burns from it. So that was a bit of a lesson. So pretty cool looking socks.
Right underneath that rock is where my shelter is. And then just right up here is a beautiful lookout. This is one of the lookouts. So I decided I'm gonna put my tarp this way and leave this part open. It's gonna be super snug in here, but it will be waterproof. So first I'm just gonna see how I can get this to work. And you can see the drip already. This is why I didn't tie it off, because this needs to come, basically this whole side needs to be covered, all of this, because my head is right there. So that's why I don't tie a knot right away. Not sure how this snow keeps getting in my boot. What the? How deep is the snow? There we go. This next part is going to be the trickiest part. I already know. I knew from the moment I started. Home sweet home. I'm probably going to have to go get some rocks to have... Or maybe I can wedge them in here somehow. Please don't get bit by a spider. Yeah, I think this is gonna work. Unless the cord somehow rips. But it should be good. Yep. It worked. Sure is getting cozy in here. Now I could easily just go find a rock and weigh these down, but I just want to see if I can use the natural environment around me first. And then if there's nothing that works, then I'll go get the rocks and save as much energy as I can. See how beautifully that one works? Yeah, that's not going anywhere. Alright, nice. Now I can go on to the next. Actually, I should probably still use this. Yep. Looks good. Oh yeah, that's not coming out. Nice, nice. It's looking great. This is actually ideal because I can just leave this, use the snow to hold it down, and just pull my cord out. I think I have one more to close on that side, and that's a shelter. So this is like right near my shelter. Chocolate covered almonds, also known as moose poop. One thing that is odd about this poop is there's no tracks anywhere around it. So I guess moose can levitate now.
I have a few essentials I take on every one of my hikes, which are a set of overnight clothes to keep in a dry bag. It will be the worst if these get wet, and it's the best feeling changing into these after a soggy day hiking. I usually only bring one set and change back into the same day clothes as I wore the day before, as they will only be getting wet again, and I try to keep my pack as light as I can. I pack a small first aid kit, a head torch and some paracord. It comes in handy if you need to tie something to your bag, hang clothes to dry, or replace a snapped shoelace. There's so many uses for it. I will pack flint and a steel rod, but also a gas lighter, best to pack both just in case. And finally I pack a whistle, just in case I get lost and I need to be found. I do pack other items, but this is just a list of which is essential to me. I do not leave without them.
I come on these big long hikes. It all seems worth it when I come and see something like this. Like, I wasn't really expecting anything like this, to be honest with you. So I've lucked out really. And this really excites me. What a lovely looking waterfall. It drops down behind into a big pool as well. Bloody spectacular. It's pretty damn wet, it's cold, the wind's getting cold up here, the weather's come in, like the clouds are around us, and yeah, I'm starting to get pretty chilly now. Stop. I'm so sweaty as well, like I've worked up a big sweat, which all that's just going cold now. So I think I'm going to put my pack back on and maybe head to somewhere a bit more sheltered from the elements, or coffee to eat. Some more little waterfall coming down through there as well. Lovely little swimming spot.
time to continue building the campsite. So, what's next? This will work fine as a campfire. What I need now is some firewood. So let's go and search for some dry firewood. Dead standing trees like this used to be dry and perfect for firewood. If you hit it lightly, you can hear it sounds a little bit hollow, meaning it's perfectly dry. So, some sawing and chopping, and we have some good firewood. Perfectly dry, very good firewood. A good choice of tree, you can say. During my life, my work, starting a family and other activities obviously took up a lot of my time. So there was less time for outdoor adventures. So when I turned 62, I decided to retire, to give myself the opportunity to spend more time outdoors. That was one of my best decisions I ever made. Now I can choose when, where and how I want to explore more of the beautiful nature, and it feels great.
development. I've always tried to understand myself and life and things in general, and understand people, and especially me, how I am functioning. I've been programmed from the beginning, and also to understand emotions and behavior patterns of myself and of others. I'm a very sensitive person, so I feel overstimulated quite easily when I'm around people. Sometimes it feels like I can feel the emotions or the burdens people have, or the energies of people which I carry around. I'm still learning how to cope with that because of my sensitive nervous systems. I get really stimulated or overstimulated, so I need time for myself. I really need to have a refuge place where I can just be by myself in my own space, not having anybody around me, and recovering from anything I experience, and also process everything I've experienced. I need a lot of time for that. So I was always looking for compensation. Once a year I normally try to go to Norway and have a mountain thing by myself and just reset and finding myself again, feeling myself again, feeling what is going on in myself. Step by step, removing all of what is not me. So it got a little bit dark, maybe you can't see it, but I found a beautiful campsite here, beautiful trees, and here's a river flowing, you can probably hear it. I'll give you a better look tomorrow. But it's beautiful. So I'm sitting in my tent now. It's already, I don't know, what's the time? Past 20, I think, past 8 p.m. But I found a really nice and beautiful campsite next to the river and protected, and it's feeling really nice and good here. And now I'm making some dinner. So today we have pasta with noodle soup. Let's do it.
Pretty tough portage. First port into the PMA. Not too long, but a little muddy, and the landing is really difficult. Just on a straight slant, so going through, heading in the right direction. Longest port is done into the perimeter management area. So I'm cruising the river for probably 5 more miles. I've got a few more rapids to go around, potentially some beaver dams. So that's the kind of stuff you really can't plan for, the beaver dams specifically. I'm hoping this high water might make some things a little easier, but I don't really bet on that. So anyway, onward. All sorts of beaver activity back here. Not a surprise at all. Tons of beavers. Which is actually a good thing. Keeps the water levels high when the water's low by building dams. I'm thinking with this water high, all their dams might have gotten blown out, which might help me. But anyway, this area is looking like I could see a moose at any moment. It's definitely got moose written all over it, so I'm gonna try to stay quiet and see if I can't run into something interesting. For this trip, or for just canoe camping in general, I will use a paper map. And I still have, you know, the downloaded maps on my phone if I kind of get in a pinch and I can't figure out what direction I'm at, get disoriented a little bit. But generally speaking, I use paper map like this. And it's easy, I can just keep it at the bottom of my boat and, you know, look for land features. This isn't the most detailed map. It's a Nat Geo map, which has the whole west side of the boundary waters. They have much better, more highly detailed maps, but honestly, I've never had any trouble. And it covers a lot more of the territory, so I don't have to buy a new map every time I go somewhere different. But I don't carry a compass on me. It would probably be smart, but just never used it, and just haven't had the desire to bring it anymore. I brought one on my first trip, you know, just thinking I might use it along with my map, and I didn't. I have pretty good natural orientation for where I'm at most of the time, so I can see landmarks, and if I've been there before, I usually, that kind of stuff just locks down in my head really good. Can't remember what I did yesterday, but when it comes to fishing spots, canoe routes, hiking routes, I generally can see them in my mind before I even get there. I also study like the online maps on my computer while I plan out my route, so I almost feel like I know where I'm going before I even get to the location. So that's really handy. I would highly recommend, you know, studying your route and, you know, any other resources you can get your hands on just to be more successful and waste less time trying to figure out where you're at. That's really the key, right? Alright, looks like I'm coming up to my first rapid. Normally would need to portage around this, but I'm going to see if I can pull through it just to save myself a little trouble. Yeah, water levels are very reasonable right now. I was worried it was going to be pushing, but it's not bad at all. gonna try to drag through this. I just really don't want to unload my boat. It looks pretty straightforward once I get past this little junction here, so hopefully it doesn't get too deep. Otherwise I might be swimming, but I'm gonna drag through, and I think if I have to, I can kind of paddle through this middle part. So let's see if I can screw something up. First portage averted. Wasn't pretty, but I didn't have to get out and unload all my stuff. You got another rapid coming. Much easier.